Hello, this is No Name with another model kit review. Today, we will be reviewing the 1971 Boss Mustang from Revell, which is a brand new tooling from 2023. Over here, you can see the side of the box with some of the details about it, and more info about the car and what paints are needed. Here's another side of it, which just shows a picture of the car over here. Some pictures of the built-up model and some of the details that have been added. And over here is like the other side, which is the same as the other one. Now let's open up the box and see what's inside. Here's like what the box looks inside when everything is initially packed in its wrapping. We'll start removing some of the layers to get a closer look at what's inside. Here's the first plastic bag with some of the parts inside. Let's cut with the bags to get a closer look inside. Nice. So here is the first sprue that I'm pulling out. This one here contains the wheel backs and the wheels, hubs, the rear axle, and a few other suspension parts, as well as like this battery here, the steering wheel. We got the drive axle and some engine bay parts and the pedals. Here are the springs and the wheel retainers that allow the wheels to roll, the wheel backs themselves. Now let's look at the next sprue inside. This sprue contains like the front sub-chassis, the front axle, the firewall, some license plates, as well as like the radiator and the shrouds, the horns, the steering columns. Here's a closer look at the horns. Over here you got the dashboard, which is very nicely detailed and molded for something like this. Please focus on it. Ah, much better. Everything's molded nicely, including the gauges. This small sprue here includes some details for a front, such as the lower front pan, which you can see over here has some nice mounting points. The front grille with well-molded details, and the side mirrors. This sprue here contains small details like the license plate over here, both leaf springs for the rear. Here's a look at both sides of them, and the differential housing on the side, but it mainly holds the chassis of the car, which is very nicely molded. It has good location mounts, which means like assembly should be a breeze. Flipping over to the other side, we can see that there are good inner engine bay details. Here are a few chrome trees which will be opened up later. Now let's get the second bag opened. Nice. Now let's see what's inside this bag. Over here, you'll find both spoilers for the front and the back, as well as these tiny little mounts for the rear spoiler. Just trying to get it focused now. This sprue contains all the engine parts. You can see the sides of the engine block halves, some of the cylinder heads covers, some wires and hosing, the starter motor, here are the exhaust manifolds as well, and the fan and belt and pulley, as well as the air cleaner. Find it really odd that this part of the exhaust is molded onto the same tree. We'll have to cut off and paint it separately later. This here is this big hunk of plastic is the hood of the car. Very nice that they put like these little divots like for the hood pins so they don't end up being butt joined. This little sprue here contains the rear headlight panels, the rear bottom pan, and the rear exhaust. I mean, it's nice that you won't have to like stick it so long, but kind of inconvenient that like they molded the exhaust in 3 different parts. Guess we'll find out when we start building. Over here, we have all the interior parts such as the seats, front and rear, the floor pan, and the side panels. Here's a closer look at the molding of the seats. Nice and crisp with no flash on them. Here's a look at some of those like little intricate details on the sides of the door panels, but it's a sport car, so it's kind of plain. Rear seat is molded into the back of the floor pan. Finally, here's the body. Molded nicely with modern technology with no flash and no obvious seam lines. Close look at some of the contours of this fastback body. And nicely recessed door handle holes for when you actually decide to build it. Now if you look at the front, you can see a little bit of underhood detail, but mainly a brace that will need to be removed during construction. From the other side of the tables, here are the multimedia parts. First of all, here are these 4 nicely molded chrome rims with open wheel detail, which means that was like no flash is sticking it up here. Over here are the tires to go with them. They are solid rubber but are hollow on the inside, so you can push the wheels inside for this newer construction style. Here's the other chrome tree, this time with the bumper, rearview mirrors, and a few other small details that will be added later. Here's the clear glass tree, which I kept in its bag to prevent scratching, which includes the headlights, windows, and other small details. Gotta protect these well. Finally, let's take a look at this beautiful decal sheet that was provided by Revell of Germany. Over here, you can see that it's got tiny details of like for some of the small engine parts. You can see like the dashboard gauges, like little stickers to stick on the engine and surround areas, and some trim details as well as the turn signals. And hey look, even the surround for like the entertainment system. It comes with not 1 but 2 sets of stripes, black and silver, so you can choose it depending on which color. And that's all parts that you can see in here. I'm gonna start gluing everything together and we'll see you soon. Over here, now we can take a look at all the work that has been done so far on this model. So let's start with the body. The body didn't need much prep, besides cutting a brace from the middle in the hood. And I also drilled the holes for like the spoiler, which will be painted a different color from the main body. Speaking of the spoiler, here is like the spoiler attached with sprue with the mounts attached as well. This sprue will be painted black. Here's the radiator surround and the radiator itself, which will also be painted black. Everything went together well thanks to these locating pins. This sprue didn't have much work needed at all, but it will get a black base coat for the first parts. Over here on this sprue, you can see that a lot of the parts have been cut off for use in the other sprues. But over here we have like a leftover radiator shroud which will not be used, the horns, 2 different steering axles, the starter, and like here's the dashboard. No work was needed for dashboards, but it will be painted in detail separately. This sprue housed most of the engine parts, but all the remaining parts here, which include like the belt and fan, as well as all the different wires, will all be painted black. And also here you have like some of the exhaust pipe sprues. Here is like most of this is just like extra wheel parts and dashboard parts, which will all be painted black, except for the wheels, which will be cut off later. This sprue will be mostly left alone and just painted on its own tree. And finally, you have this interior parts, which I glued the front seats together and attached the pedals to the front, but otherwise not that much work is needed. And now finally, here is the engine. This engine here will be primed black and then sprayed blue, and then the rest of the details will be painted separately. Alright, it's time to head to the paint booth. So I've noticed that during the construction, it can be quite hard to mask off the hood paint template. But remember, whenever you're gonna do something like this, keep in mind that there are 2 little grooves over here as painted here. Line up the edge of the tape with this one. That way you can get everything done correctly.
Everybody, there.
To the point that where everything will soon be put together, and here look at all the sub-assemblies I've done so far. The body over here went together really nicely, and I got the front, rear, and side glass all in without too much of a mess. You can see here that I've already started applying some of the decals too, like this registration badge and some other details. The window trim and the wipers were all done with monochrome pens, and I got the rear end in as well with the lights, which are colored red with Sharpies. To avoid getting a mess on the parts, I used this product called Clear Gel Tacky Glue for the glass, which has a strong bond and dries clear and can easily be cleaned from glass. You can buy this at your local craft store such as Michael's. This chassis subassembly went together really nicely. I really like the metallic mica blue I used for an engine, as well as the gold details on the starter to the right. Flip over to the other side. I used Tamiya silver to detail all the silver parts, and the wheels actually roll for this. Unlike HPI Guy's workshop, I like the wheels to roll on my model. Here is a closer look at the interior. It's all black, kinda boring, but you can see some of the nicer decals, such as like the wood trim on the side of the doors, this like silver groove on the rear seats, and especially lots of dashboard details, which has a lot of decals attached to it. All that's left now is to attach parts like the front lights here, front bumper, rear bumper, spoiler, and all these chrome details, which include the actual bumpers themselves and other small details. I'll get back to you with the final assembly complete. Now here's a look at the completed model. This was a very easy model to put together despite having lots of detail, thanks to the thoughtful location of location pins. Therefore, everything fit together perfectly on the model. Also, this particular model went together really well with a nice glossy hood and body panels, which are all coated in Ford polish. The decals also went together pretty nicely, and I laid them out in the sun to dry for a while. Here's a closer look at the rear end and how it looks. Nicely reflective like a real car should be. Overall, here are my opinions on this model kit. Very detailed and yet easy to build. Everything fits together, wide selection of decals, and therefore I would recommend this to anybody who likes muscle cars. Go buy it now at your local hobby store. Now it's photo time. This is Noah Dane here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and check out the other videos there as well. I post a lot of good stuff, and I'll keep you updated soon. Goodbye.